software opportunity for Indian software products. This is a kind of a niche topic that we've kind of picked up, that Rehan has picked up, and we're looking forward to hearing his views on it. We were having an informal chat before we kind of started this breakfast, and we're going to continue this discussion. This format is informal. We will request Rehan to speak for a bit, and then open it out to Q&A towards the end, and get your questions out regarding your business, where Rehan can actually apply experience and knowledge to tell you how can you apply it to your own business. You would have seen Rehan's profile, a serial entrepreneur turned angel turned VC, and has so many successful entrepreneurs under his wing today, as an investor, and still on the run with so many more to come. So I'm sure there'll be many who will be interested in even talking to him and pitching to him, but this is not the format, of course, today, but that's just behind your mind. Rehan has also recently signed up as a Thai charter member and has started giving out a lot of time speaking for us, and we're going to go to him soon even for pitching. So Rehan, over to you.
Thanks. Yesterday I was constantly last few days I was getting this call constantly, from some 040 number, Hyderabad numbers. I got Hyderabad so I thought for the Hyderabad companies and all, probably. So many times I answered that call. So you're going to be Tata Sky guy. So we have this. I have a Tata Sky, so we have this thing where your Tata Sky can be connected to the internet, and your all your movies will be video on demand service, right? So pretty cool. Yeah? I said, yeah, set it up for me. He asked me good questions like, what is your broadband speed? Is it over 500? I said, yeah, I can manage all with 1 Mbps. I said, 300 rupees, maybe we'll have this some toggle attached, and the whole thing will start working. Not very cool. But that shows the trend, and I was reading a report that by 2020, right, the globe will have over 30 billion internet-connected devices, right? And so that's like 5 per individual, right? So you're going to have your smartphone, which is connected, your laptop, your PDA, your television, right? Which is what Tata Sky is doing now. So that shows you, and probably some other devices, right? So this is a device report. And apparently the number goes up further, right? It goes up 2030 to 50 billion. Crazy number like that, right? So 10 per person or 9 per person in the world. Probably your car and everything, My friend Vishal Gondal, I met him the other day. How many of you know Vishal Gondal, right? Colorful character, right? He's wearing some fit band, showing me, man, this is the new thing, this is going to be connected, and we're going to monitor everything you do, and he's like running around to China to set up this whole thing, and so apparently there's this band that's going to be on you, and it's going to be connected to you all the time, and it monitors everything that you do, and it reports back to your iPad. There's all software inside all these devices. Right? So we are seeing a whole new wave of global software opportunity. Right? Earlier on, there was just the PC. And we in India have no opportunity, as we were discussing, to create software for PCs. Why? Because the PC came to the West first. Right? So all software, those guys sat and created, and they were on version number 40 by the time we started creating version number 1. So we had absolutely no chance to get in. Right? In terms of brand, in terms of maturity of product. Today, we have parity. This Fitbit or whatever is coming out by Vishal Gondal, or your TV that's going to be powered, or the latest model of smartphone that is coming out, it's the same thing that's being released all over the world. So we in India have an opportunity now to create software products and get to the finishing line before anyone else in the world. Sure, the Koreans will be added, the Americans will be added, the Israelis will be added, and they all do a great job. Right? You have an advantage over a lot of your counterparts, and that advantage is the English language. Somebody asked me about language, right? There are basically 2 countries in the world, 2 or 3 countries in the world, maybe Israel, India, and the US, that can really do software products in English. Right? Almost all the other countries, Germany and all these guys, they're not really software, they're software and engineering powerhouses, but they have a huge disadvantage. Chinese completely lost. What's happened to Japan in the whole game? Look at what happened to Korea, right? Korea, hardware powerhouse, but they couldn't do Android. They we can't do software. And you know what the biggest, somebody was asking me the other day, they were like, you know, how many languages do you know? I was like, I know 3 languages, English, PHP and C. Machine language is really important, and the biggest joke is all those languages are in English, right? They're not in Chinese or German or whatever. That's why Indians are good at software, right? Maybe we're not great, but all you have to do is be better than the others. So India has traditionally been a software powerhouse. If you look at all our foreign exchange earnings, right, and there's a lot of it in the news these days because of the way the rupee is going. There are basically 3 things that constitute our foreign exchange earnings. One is FDI, right? The second is NRI remittances, but the third is software exports. So we exported about $10 billion worth of software as services in the last financial year. Now, that engineering talent, given with this device parity, given with this device explosion, given with our knowledge of English, creates the global software opportunity for us here in India. And Google helps you sell anywhere in the world. The web helps you sell anywhere in the world. Direct flights are available to anywhere in the world. You can go to New York on a direct flight. You can go all over the world on a direct flight. You can get there. You can even meet major customers and come back at a lower cost than establishing in those countries. So all this suddenly opens up the global market, and your English and your background in software engineering, you know, which all the brilliant IITs and triple ITs and so on have all produced, helps us get this edge. And this is not a theory, guys. I have seen this happening up close and personal in close to 10 companies in which I have invested. I was one of the first guys that started investing in software. People used to not invest in software earlier because there were hardly any successful Indian software products. People were like, yeah, why should I put money into this? Other than Tally, there was no software product, Indian software product that really has made money. Right? So no Indian investor wanted to invest. Right? But I saw this global opportunity because of my business Flora 2000. In my business Flora 2000, also we had an international market sitting here in India. Right? So I understood how to access this international market, and I figured if we could create software that was global software, you know, there was no reason why you should restrict yourself to the Indian market. You could create it for any market in the world. The first company in which I invested was a company called Drupa. Right? There were a couple of these, 3 of these guys. 2 of them, they're all very different age groups, right? So one guy was from IIT Bombay, he got out in the 60s. One guy, Jaspreet, you know, was the CEO of the company, which was, you know, he was the youngest guy. He was only 26 years old from IIT Guwahati, right? And 2006 batch. And Ramani, who was the third guy. All the 3 of them were at Veritas. They decided to leave Veritas and they set up Drupa. What Drupa does, or Proof, what it does is continuous data backup. So it continuously backs up. Continuous backup is the holy grail of backup since the 60s. It's the ideal thing, right? If you take point-in-time snapshots, you can lose valuable files, you can lose valuable images, other kinds of data. You can do a certain amount of database replication, which is what people does, but it only saves database objects. It doesn't save all your mails, it doesn't save images, it doesn't save other sort of objects. So CDB is the ideal thing because it sort of backs up everything, and it kind of. The problem with CDB has been that it is very system and network intensive. It's continuously backing up, right? So everything is traveling through the system. So people couldn't, and it wasn't practical. Drupa came up with a light footprint panel of business. Right? And I figured that this was a great product, except that we couldn't really sell this in India. That's why these guys were roaming around and nobody was funding these guys. Right? When I met them, I figured that all we have to do is start selling this overseas. And there'll be plenty of guys into them, especially like websites, and people are very sensitive about their emails abroad. If you worked in a consulting firm or any kind of blue chip organization, you know how your computers are all system are sort of, they're fully administered. You can't even like install anything onto them. So it's not really happened in the Indian firms, right? A lot of them haven't yet reached those level of practices. So I figured if we could start selling this product abroad, and they were doing server backup. I figured if we could pivot this to laptop backup, right, there would be a great market abroad. So we went ahead and made the investment. Very small investment, right? $200,000. April 2008. We, bought every kind of domain around the product. Laptopbackup.com, laptop-backup.com. We bought every kind of domain around this. We SEO'd the hell out of it. Right? We had no money to really spend on AdWords. We had no money to send people there. Jaspreet, the CEO, we got him a Skype account, Germany account, America account, UK account. You know how it is, right? One number everywhere, right? For some $9 a month or something. All diverted, of course, to his cell phone or a Skype. The guy would stay awake at night and make those outbound calls as and when, as if he's a local guy. And we set up this complete inside sales process, which was really, sort of driven by Jaspreet. And we started getting business. In our first year itself, we even had a marquee customer like NASA who signed up for this and took five licenses from us. And that's when we realized that we were really onto something.
So at this point, if we can just ask you that what we were discussing was a mindset of the global guys versus Indian entrepreneurs, and we as Indian entrepreneurs trying to pitch an Indian product. How easy or difficult was it to get NASA or any other clients in that sense?
I think the great thing was Jaspreet was 26, right? And that generation doesn't think it's Indian, right? They think they're global. So they don't have that baggage, right? That we are Indian or whatever. They've grown up on a diet of color TV and computers, and he worked in a multinational like Veritas, right? And so he didn't really have that mindset. So I think when he pitched and he had that confidence that, hey man, I'm a global guy, I'm like selling this to you, it worked. I think you have that attitude of being a global citizen versus being some guy and trying to put on a fake accent or trying to sell over there. People see through all that, right? And give some Wilmington, Delaware address, right? People see through all that. All that is pseudo. The minute I see Wilmington, Delaware, I know it's a shell company, right? And everybody in India sets it up and says, boss, I put a US office, kind of thing. It doesn't work, right? So I think people know that they're used to buying global products and global software. Like NASA, we were really surprised NASA picked it up because it's a defense contractor in a way, right? It's a defense agency, and we thought, man, how would they ever take a product like this? We've now got 100,000 license orders from NASA, right? So we figured, why would they ever take this product? Because they only want an American product backup, and there's no such thing, right? That's not the mindset of people anymore. And now we have a number of cases where we've seen us selling abroad. And I must say the UI and the look and feel that Jaspreet and team and Milind and all created from day one was very smart. It was very clean, it wasn't cluttered. So that kind of worked. We went and we raised our Series A of about $3.2 million from Sequoia after that. This is 2009. We still didn't have an office overseas, right? We were still selling even with the Series A money because to set up an office in America or UK is very expensive. But then we got money to buy air tickets. It was so funny that Jaspreet had never traveled abroad, right? When he was looking at this thing. So when he went, and he was featured on Business, on the cover of Business Today or Business India, I forget which one. And 2-3 days, and then he had gone to the American consulate too. And he got rejected for his visa because he had never traveled over here, blank passport. So I said, man, and the next year that Business Today came out, I said, they were like, yeah, dude, every Sardar lands up and says, I've got content by Sequoia. I said, go back to that magazine next day and show it to them. He did, he got his visa. So they were like, yeah, you please approve. So yeah, so kind of went through that whole thing, and remarkable. This guy would never live abroad. He would commute. He would go to the UK. We appointed a dealer in the UK who would cover dealer in UK and Spain. Would cover that territory for us. We set up a dealer in America. We set up a dealer in Hong Kong, and we started selling this product. Then when we raised our Series B, it was a larger round of $10 million. Then we had money to set up the American office because American staff and all are very expensive. At that point, just we shifted to Silicon Valley. because we have more customers in America than we had in India. We had hardly any customers here. We hardly have any. In fact, we shut India down, believe it or not. We only sell through dealers. We have no more direct sales process in India. We shifted to the valley. We want to be close to customers and want to learn about the product. Dhruva is now rated as world number 1 by Gartner for backup. For enterprise backup. We now back up PDAs, laptops, we back up all kinds of Linux, Mac, we back up servers. We've added a file sharing component to the whole thing because you have all the files essentially with you. You can do a lot with it, right? So if we imagine the company as a data company versus just a pure backup company, we've added a search layer on top of the whole thing. You can search through your files. A lot of amazing things have happened. The company is now raising another round at $100 million valuation. And we think Dhruva will grow, probably exit at a $500 to $1 billion size.
There must be so many such Dhruvas who are sort of unmined, who are not discovered. How do we discover all those? Just brief them.
Well, I met Jaspreet on a forum. That's how I met him on so people who want to be people, you can't stay the best kept secret, right? So there are a lot of forums like these where you can go and approach people. I think the company has to make an effort to have its service covered. It's a marketing game. It's a sales game for the company also. They want to raise financing. So they have to go out, and luckily in India now you have a number of forums like these where you can meet people, approach people. I think that's the best way to get your service covered.
For somebody like you, search for these guys.
We actively search for them. So number one is I make it known that I invest in these kind of companies. So I'm known for investing in software companies. I tell people, buddy, I invest in software companies. Keep me in mind if you ever hear of a software company. Right? So that's number one. Number two is I'm very close to a lot of the colleges here because all these kind of things have some kind of IIT Connect or IIIT Connect. So all the professors in all these colleges, so they constantly are referring people who are doing various sort of startups over here. That's how we sort of say to all these models.
What kind of the next 2 years look kind of a niche you will be looking at because I'm very sure there's a lot of players in the market. But what is it specifically for India? Do you think that if something like this comes up in India, probably I'll definitely invest in. What is it that probably you're not able to find what you're looking for?
No. Finding a lot of good projects. Entrepreneurs constantly surprise you, right? So there's no sort of pattern, right? So we haven't, and I would say it's almost a good thing. We haven't become too specialized in any one industry, right? So we are not like some kind of backup industry in India where all these backup companies are coming because if suddenly, and we've seen this happen in Israel, suddenly that thing goes out of the technology changes, right? The whole industry sort of becomes redundant. The great thing that I've seen here in India is that we're getting a lot of diverse sort of projects from entrepreneurs. So I'm seeing everything from hardcore technology like this to smartphone stuff. Recently invested in a company called Snapline. Now, who would have thought of this, right? So what Snapline does is that it produces, so the thesis is that everybody will want a phone app tomorrow. Just like everybody wanted a website, right? So every restaurant, every school, every kind of private equity fund, any kind of institution, every corporate, they want a phone app. It's going to be the next website. And you will download that app and you'll keep it if you frequent that place or if you want to frequently use it, right? Now, how do I produce that app? Typically, I go to a workshop, I ask a bunch of guys to code it for me. It takes 2-3 months, a lot of hard burn, there are bugs, etc., back and forth. And these guys from IIT Delhi, they've produced an app that makes apps. Right? So you can have your app rolling out in 48 hours. The company is called Snapline. So it's a ready-made shell for an app. Their they understood that every vertical, like a restaurant, let's say a Bollywood movie, a Hollywood movie, has common functionality in it. Right? A restaurant has order food, book tables, browse the menu, right? Interact with the chef maybe and get some updates. Right? A movie has watch trailer, see some trivia, book tickets. So they've come up with verticalized, specialized, vertical special blank apps. You just fill in your content, you reskin it, and your app for your thing is ready to go. King's Punjab has signed up, Smoking Joe's has signed up.
These are web apps or these are proper iOS?
Proper iOS native. It's not in a wrapper. Right? They're all native apps that have been produced for. So if you sign up for it, you immediately get your BlackBerry, Windows, iOS, and Android app, and you get a dashboard from which you can manage the app, and the company helps distribute the app for you, because that's the other part that you want, right? It's a great product. It's a global product. We're now rolling out a Singapore team to start marketing it. This one required a lot of feet on the street, right? We couldn't run a very successful inside sales process here. So we're rolling after Delhi, Bombay, now we're rolling out Singapore, we'll probably, and our theory is to go to, we are also developing it, to your point earlier, we're also developing a Spanish version of it, because we realize that within English it might get saturated very quickly, because we see one or two competitors which have come up in the US. So let's get into an area where competitors are unlikely to come up, right? All the Spanish restaurants, etc. will also want an app. So let's quickly go and dominate that.
So coming back to that now, what makes you see what is the potential for linguistic strength?
Well, I think English is great, right? So I mean, even if you, software is in English.
No, I'm not saying English. I'm saying the way the Spanish market, the saturation aspect. I'm saying that India probably has dominant language. I don't see any software actually making a mark linguistically in a certain language. You talk about English as a strength globally. What about software?
We're talking about local thing, like
Locally,
Hindi,
that is what I'm trying to ask you. What is the investment potential or say thrivability potential for software makers within India apart from English? English definitely saturated already even globally.
Yeah.
What about the linguistic strength of India? India has one of the highest people even globally in Tamil, Gujarati, Marathi. What about those? Where do you see people going to that aspect?
I don't see anything there.
So it's a huge market to explore.
If people come up with it, see, it's not my job to explore.
No,
As a fund, our job is to fund companies which have explored. If they come up with an idea, these are for ideas for entrepreneurs to come up with.
yes.
And if they see that as a market, they'll come up with it. So that's really up to them.
Just to add to that, because actually we got interest from Spain when we were just 6 months in as a company, and they talked about taking us to South America, Colombia, etc. One of the decisions we had to make was, getting the translations and internationalizations is the easy part. The hard part is how do we manage the support. And if we manage the support, getting on the phone, when it's English in the US, it's a lot easier. But when it's some other language, you need to have a capable team, and that's, as an investment in the first year of the company, it did not make sense, which is why we skipped it. So that was the thought process we had with respect to internationalization.
Could you also introduce yourself and the business that you're doing?
Sure.
Some
So
context.
Sudarshan Ravi here. I regular at TIE, been almost 2 years now. For the last 9 months, I've set up an enterprise gamification company. We use game mechanics to transform business processes in the enterprise. Our first product gamifies employee reference and makes the entire recruiting process efficient. So that said, I also had a question. So now we've received. So when Dhruva went overseas and set up dealers, was it an inbound request or was it an outbound request? That's one.
Outbound.
Second is that
We found the deal.
So second is that when you're a 1-year-old company and you're out looking for dealers, how do you draw the balance? Because you're still significantly small as compared to probably a dealer who has presence in the market. So when you negotiate the contract and when you figure things out with them, going for somebody who's a top player might kill your margins, but at the same time going for a lower player might not necessarily win you the market. So where do you draw that balance?
To add to this question, what was the impact of cost of sales? That time Grua was domestic player, all of a sudden it started tapping international markets. So what was the significant impact of cost of sales, and did the margins really shoot up?
No, I mean, to come to your question about we being a small company, we couldn't get the large dealers. They don't take on small guys, right? So you had to work with the kind of dealers that were willing to take you on. And of course, that in hindsight, it actually worked out really well. Those guys were very passionate. They were focused on one or two products. They were selling the product personally. The guy would stand up and sell. It really worked out well for us. I don't think we've ever appointed in any of the companies a very large distributor like a Dell or someone like that. I know Bluebird tried to work with HCM, and it didn't work out for us in India because you were like one more product in their 80 products, right? And they were so busy selling WebSphere and all those kind of products to meet their targets that to sell a niche product like Bluebird didn't really work out for us. So it's really the smaller dealers that work for this kind of a company. Also, you'll see the larger dealers till date haven't been very proficient with SaaS kind of products, and also this recurring billing model. They go in hard, they sell a product, they don't provide any support, and they get out of there. Right? That was the bad days of selling software. Right? Everybody's gone. Apparently, Microsoft sells $1 billion worth of WebSphere a year. I don't know how many companies really kind of use it. Right? It just comes as part of that bundle and probably right there. The great thing about SaaS is that now I have to make sure people use my product, otherwise the company will not pay me at the end of the month. So I think SaaS is a win-win for both for recurring billing for the provider and win-win for the company that's being there on. Your question on cost of sales, the reason we appointed dealers is because we didn't have the money to set up those offices. So we had to appoint dealers, right? There was no, and the dealers pay off for themselves. That's why that industry survives. It survives because so we sort of cover that. We had to spend on traveling there, meeting those guys. But it worked out for us.
What do you look for in dealers? What are those competencies or skills you look for?
Well, typically, you look for a certain amount of client base that he can readily take you to. That's the most important thing, I suppose, that you look for. The rest of it, the second, third, and like relationship with the guy, responsiveness, quality of communication. But you want to go with a dealer, I mean that's the whole idea of taking on a dealer, that he already has a base to which he can take your product. That's what these dealers have, which you don't have.
You look at the US and UK market, but let's say your product has a lot of competitors which are already present in those markets. So how do you weigh the other English-speaking markets like South Africa or Australia?
Small.
So it's better to be a small fish in a big pond.
Better not to do a product in a crowded space.
Then you have to spend that much more effort in getting yourself branded or positioned, even if you have a niche or if you have a differentiator, you have to spend that much more effort in marketing and creating a position for yourself in that market.
Yeah, but that's the whole. Sorry, what's your name?
Sure.
See, the whole thing is, man, if you are just another product, if you're number 4, number 5, it's better to be. You'll end up spending a lot of money. It's better to be first in a category. I got to an Alright summit, and Alright says, the marketing guru, right? So he asked us a question. It was like, who was the first man on the moon? Armstrong. The second man, people, kind of don't really know. I still remember the first Indian Idol, right? Who remembers second and third? Nobody kind of remembers. So you should be first in a category. And if you're first in a category, your marketing effort will be smaller. Media will write about you, there'll be a lot of buzz. You go with a news story. People are not saying, they're not comparing you to other people. So I think entrepreneurship is really, because it's so hard, right? You have no money. So entrepreneurship as compared to products that giants launch, the difference is that you have to be first. They can afford to be second or third. And they just use their distribution muscle and their financial muscle to kind of make it big. And they've been failing of late. Microsoft. They did it in the past, they can't do it anymore. They muscled their way into every category, right? They were not first. They got into GUIs, they weren't first, right? They got into office products, they weren't first. You had WordStar and Word, and which was the other one? so many of them, right? You had Lotus, but they muscled their way into that category just by spending money on it. They were not the innovator. But now it's not working for them. They can't get into smartphones. They can't get into iPads. You know, their tablet has bombed. Apparently, Windows RT, they're sitting with $1 billion of stock that they have to write it off. Right? They can't get into anything anymore. They can't get into search. So they can't muscle their way right into any of these kind of categories.
Sorry, follow looking at other non-English speaking markets, let's say Spanish or German or French markets. This question was about support. Let's say your product requires some kind of domain expertise, like some services you offer or something that comes as a package. That is an additional cost or additional cost of development as well as course. How do you weigh in that well?
Market entry is a strategy. Right? Market entry, so the easiest market for you to enter into will be the English market. The problem with that English market is that you've got massive competition coming out of Silicon Valley and Israel for a lot of products. So that's the challenge with that market. So that will have its own costs to fend off that competition and to raise ahead of that competition. What we have seen in these other markets is that competition tends to be slower. So the cost that you will spend on setting up that support and setting up that delivery mechanism may be a little more efficient than your English market in some cases. And we chose Spanish because it's the largest of the second language markets other than China. Right? Snapline. So that's why we've chosen Spanish. Because it covers all of South America, a lot of population, and it covers, of course, Spain.
So can I ask you now a question related to healthcare? We are the first company in the country to help patients reduce their healthcare costs. We become their agnostic. We guide them on generic medicines to expensive brands, to low cost brands, from expensive surgeries to competitively priced surgeries and quality. So we guide them and we charge people, and then we won awards from NASA, we won awards from Times of India, etc. Now we feel that yes, the software aspect is the way to go global. Because there are certain services, including countries, Spanish-speaking countries, and other South American countries, where universal healthcare is not. It is very similar to the Indian healthcare, where it is more dominated by the government. So we are trying to take this to those countries too, and we feel that software or mobile platform is the best. What do you feel will be the most important aspect we should keep in mind when we're doing this? As your experience to say that this one you should definitely keep in mind when you're doing this. For example, we're launching the generic, we launch this generic search app which are using like a expensive brand, and they'll come to know the low cost brand. Similarly, rate of surgery they can find out. Yeah. How much is a particular rate of surgery? That app is definitely not there. So we tell them how to find it. But do you think that this will have a standalone software sale potential than just an integration with our existing?
So first of all, I don't think you're a software product.
Yeah.
You're an information product.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So when we talk about software products, we are largely talking about software products which are sold to businesses. Right? So, so in that sense, it's very different. You also know for B2C product, you have to follow the usual B2C marketing stuff, SEO, AdWords.
What do you feel the potential in the B2B would be, where you can categorize that as a pure software product and not a professional product, but we can look into for making healthcare affordable?
Well, I can't tell you a product strategy.
No, but I'm asking you, you must have found it. I'm just asking you.
No, see, you will have to find your, I mean, what you have is not really a software product. Now, can I sell this to businesses, to doctors? Maybe. You have, so the way to go about it is you have to test it to see if it works domestically or in some area.
Scheduling, or would that be a software product?
Possibly, yes, like Practo.
ZocDoc.
Well, ZocDoc is the information product.
Again, it's
information, but Practo, which is the terminal, right, which doctors have, which use internally. So that is a software product.
So this is a hardware integrated product.
Which is sold to businesses, right? So that's a software product. ZocDoc is more for information product. But ZocDoc makes his money by providing leads to doctors. So it's a lead gen product. It's not a software product as such. It's a B2C product. It's a
So
software.
let's say a heart rate monitor app would be a processor.
Heart rate monitor app. Yes, it would be possibly sold to consumers. Yeah.
You mentioned about larger enterprises like Microsoft and all not really being able to manage the game now. So what do you see in the future in 10 years down the line? Is it going to be dominated by small independent producers, companies, and enterprises like them?
So our thesis as a fund is that there will be a lot of acquisitions in the space by the behemoths. Because they become massive sales and marketing organizations, whereas they're not able to innovate. And that really creates the opportunity for funds like us and for entrepreneurs like you to build and sell these companies. So Druva will probably end up being sold in the $500 million to $1 billion range to one of these behemoths who were not able to invent a product like this one. And even if they tried, they were not able to get leadership in that product, and they're not able to get the marquee customers in that. So they will acquire this product. With that they get those marquee customers. They can take that product to all their existing customers. They've got a large base. What these guys have is they have very large bases and relationships with customers.
Can they add value to that product? Because once they buy it, then is it the end of the story for that product? No development. And
Very often, yes. So that is the biggest sort of challenge. I bought a new Gillette razor, right? Gillette got sold to P&G. It's not that good as the previous one. It's all the hair gets stuck in it. So you feel product development is a little shaky at Gillette now suddenly. All the razors were amazing till now. But so yeah, we've seen that happen. I mean, look at Skype, right? I feel Skype has become like super bloated. It doesn't work. It doesn't work on my phone. It drains all the battery. I never keep it on, right? And look what WhatsApp and all these guys they're completely. Really, the new voice thing is very cool on WhatsApp, right? It's amazing. So what we've seen is, the sad story is that, and that's why these guys also don't have leadership, is that these kind of organizations, I mean, Larry Ellison has come out and said that I imagine Apple without innovation going forward, right? He said that yesterday, all over the news today. So we've seen this happen. That product development disappears in these large companies.
you can sell your baby and see it.
Well, you can sell it, so a bunch of, you can sell it, it'll stagnate, yeah.
Okay, just before you sell, one housekeeping thing. There's a car which is parked, it's blocking, and we have this, it's MH02BD94. Could you just give the key, or you could move it yourself if you wish. Here somebody can do the value, na Dinesh? Thank you.
Rehan, I mean, India dominated the software services scene on the pure basis of fast arbitrage.
Right.
Now we have the same benefit with respect to product build and product support and all of that.
Seven times cheaper to build it here than the Valley.
So, given that, I mean, do you think that one of the dilemmas is, do we price the product on par with what the competition offers and rake in the margins, or do we underprice it, thereby bringing the category down?
No need to really underprice it. See, I mean, hopefully you will first of all you will be early enough not to have a lot of competition. So that's where the whole game is being played, right? If you're going to be in a market where you have to underprice in order to win, that means it's a very mature market. You don't want to be in that space first of all. And that's a very hard game to win.
So on the recruiting side, right, on the referral product per se, most of them are social hiring products, right? So we come in with game mechanics and social hiring. So in a sense, if we compare, apples to apples, we are a better product. But if you compare the market in the referral market as well as the recruiting market, obviously it's a mature market. So when you have an innovative product that's going into a mature market, I mean,
Yeah, but you know, so that's the whole thing, right? So again, analyze. So that was my whole point earlier. Analyze. This point was, and this was about 10 years ago, and he's written a lot of books on this. You should read his book called The Origin of Brands. Right? It talks about divergence as a, you know. So the world has constantly been diverging, right? As right from, you know, you had this creature, I forget what you called it, the panthera or something, which then became the cheetah, the lion, the tiger, and the leopard. It kind of, you know, diverged into multiple sort of creatures. And we see that happening in all categories, right? So let's say in pizza, for example, right? So you had pizza, then you had Domino's, which came out and became pizza delivery. Right? Then you had sliced pizza guys, which came out, right? And they became pizza by the slice, Shabaro in America, right? And so on. And then, you know, the gourmet pizza and so on and so forth, right? And we're seeing that in the beverage category. So you had daytime energy drinks, Red Bull came out with the evening energy drink, and so on and so forth. That whole category diverged. You saw it with the restaurant. The restaurant has now broken up in, you had that diner, right? Now the diner has become the coffee shop, which is Starbucks, and you know, the fast food, which is sort of the burger joint, which is McDonald's, and so on. So everything diverges in the world, right? You have to be aware. So the computer has now diverged into your hand phone, has diverged into your PDA, and so on and so forth. That one chip has now sort of gone and diverged. So as categories grow, they diverge, right? If you are finding you cannot win a category, and this is Alrice's point, right? You cannot win a category by being better. Nobody remembers better. People only remember first. So being better is no longer good enough. The better Red Bull, the better Windows, nobody wants that. Apple frankly couldn't win being the better Windows. They tried, right? The Mac was the better Windows in a way, right? In many ways. They didn't win. It was only when they came up, they became first in the touch phone and the first in the iPad category that they won. So they won on the diverged streams. They didn't win on the PC. They haven't won on the PC. So you have to look for that. Domino's didn't win on the restaurant. It won on delivery. You have to look for that diverged category and be first in it. Druva won on continuous backup, not on backup. It was a diverged new thing, you know.
You said there were other products also, right, for continuous backup.
Not really. Continuous backup wasn't, it was new. That was my whole point. So all the leading companies had point-in-time snapshot products. They didn't really have these continuous products. So Druva was a leader in that space. That's why when they made calls, people were like, wow, you can do continuous backup? Cool, man, I'll try it. That's the reaction you want. Otherwise, it's really hard win. Yeah, man, okay, no, listen, I've already tried one continuous backup product. I've tried this, I've tried that, and so on and so forth. That's a slog then.
But it always starts as an outbound activity in the finding that particular product activity. It's always that.
You have to. So the way you do it is that you look at metro categories and you see how they're going to diverge. You look at us as a venture fund, right? So how are venture funds raised? You go around, you ask people to invest in the funds. There are a number of venture funds out there. There's Axel, there is Sequoia, there's Helion, there's Nexus. If I go to investors and say, man, I'm an internet fund, they're like, yeah, there are like 5 other funds in market. I'll put money into them. They're more mature than you are. Why do I invest? When we go and we say we're a software-focused fund, none of these guys are software. Everybody listens. Because we're doing what the other guys are not doing. So I allow them to put their money into a fund which is investing in categories that other guys are not really specialized in. So that perks up people. They're the first software-focused investment fund. The first such fund in India. So when I go and talk to my Hong Kong guys, I go and talk to whoever, they're like, yeah man, I'll listen to you. And if I tell them, rupee falling or not falling, see, if you are cool enough, all these macro things don't matter. Because people know, yeah, these guys will create fund companies in India, they'll get them at low prices probably because that area is not competitive. They are, these companies have a lot of exits because global guys will buy them. They have global markets, so they'll be immune from the rupee. I have a strong story. Yeah. So similarly with Ruba, all our companies. So Snapline is the leader in what it does. The first to come out with verticalized app producer. People are listening everywhere in the world. People are listening to them. They're like, yeah, man, I want this. You call up a restaurant in New York, he wants it. There's nobody else which is offering him this product. You don't care whether you're from India, Bolivia, XYZ. Nobody cares. It's cool, the product. It solves this problem. So that's the name of the game. You have to invent and you have to look at so the way you do it, it's actually not that hard. You look at mature categories, that's what Steve Jobs and all did, right? They looked at the PC and he predicted that it will sort of diverge into all this. That's what the guys at Domino's and all did. So,
protecting the product.
You have to speak up a little bit.
About protecting the product.
Yeah.
You went out to foreign market. Do you fit in the product or you just went out?
yeah, so you have to follow all those hygiene factors, right? I mean, copyright already exists on code. So, first of all, you copyright it, patenting takes a longer time. But you have to follow all those usual steps. But you can start selling before you get your patents.
But does it really help? Like Samsung and Apple is a good example. They are fighting for long years.
Yeah.
So if some problems come up in the future in the international market, does that copyright patenting really help for Indian companies?
That helps you. It's a production. There is a cost to it, I agree. We have genuine inventions inside Ruba, inside Sapiens. There are over 21 patents in Ruba. Why should we not take them? We have a budget for securing our patents. Someone else will go and take it, then he'll file a suit against me for doing it my way. That's the biggest problem, right? You don't patent it first, someone else will patent it, and then they'll tell you, boss, you can't use your own product. So you better patent it first.
But doesn't proof of chronology automatically safeguard you from
Patent is better.
but you can still fight on a
You're
proof
playing
of chronology, right?
See, if you're playing a high stakes game, you didn't start patenting with seed money. We started patenting once we had Sequoia money with us. Once we had that. So we put a little bit of $200,000 aside out of the $3 million that we raised to get our patent secured. It's also very big leverage when you go to sell the company, when you talk to people, if you talk to customers, you say, I have more patented products. Very powerful to us. We'll probably list our patents on our side.
What is your appetite now? Like, you started with $200,000. What do you look at now?
No, so what we do as an investor is that we still look at $200,000 for seed. That's typically your seed size. It's about 1 crore rupees probably. Right? And then if the company does well, we start topping up 2 million, 3 million, so on and so forth into the company. Which is what I couldn't do earlier as an individual investor. That's the fun. In order to do that. There's so many great companies, so much upside, I couldn't participate. And a lot of other investors sort of got into that. And that's the opportunity. Plus we want to do more seeding per year. Earlier could do only so many, how many crores can you write per year on a personal check. So now the fund will do 8 to 10 seedings a year. It's 4 years. Hopefully with the fund too and so on and so forth. So it's more and more such I've been a great company. Every day I meet amazing guys. They're producing amazing software.
Which is the last
I think the smartphone is the big one right now. Right? So the whole smartphone opportunity, the number of things which are coming out for smartphone which are it's a whole new world, right? It's like we discovered America, the new continent has been discovered. So obviously stuff, shops, resident, everything should come up from a continent.
many sectors come into a mobile application type of model. Most of the sectors can include. You have to go specific to like Tally, so very specific to accounting as a category. So is there anything which you see that there's a trend?
Well, mobile, So mobile is a very personal device, right? So things which are location enabled, which are sort of integrated with your contact list. Also mobile.
The data security, one of the companies like Secure, hardcore into defense sectors where companies are very specific to securing data at a very high level. That's one sector which they've seen an application or a software which was even listed essentially.
There's a lot of stuff in mobile that they have.
Platforms on e-commerce is very specific to doing shopping or it's not really a software kind of a product. It's just like a
E-commerce is not a software.
It's like
thing.
most
It's buying and it's a shop. You provided the shopping cart, you were the software company.
Yeah, right.
So there is a company we're looking at, and we're possibly going to invest in it, which actually does that. It produces the shopping cart on
I've
mobile.
seen that, yeah. I've seen couple of them.
Three of them. Are they mobile?
They're not
So this
mobile.
guy is the mobile one.
Oh, they're mobile.
So he produces he's the Magento.
Yeah, Magento.
He's the Magento of mobile. Right? Indian company, global product. So and very smart. So kind of just sucks the data out of Magento. So you use Magento to manage your product. But then if you sort of get the software from him, you can distribute your shopping cart on all cell phones.
OpenCart is one of these free.
Yeah, but is it on mobile?
It's not on mobile.
Exactly. So web was, so before Magento there was nothing on web. So 7 years ago was the Magento, was the web opportunity, right? So when I did Florida 2000, I had no Magento, but we coded it from ground up. Guys who came after me, they used Magento and they used all these other kind of shopping carts. Now, similarly on the web. So the opportunity is to create the entire platform for the web and it will have its own set of features, right? So it will have location and all kinds of things in it. So that's an example of web software, or mobile software. Similarly, as you see, so smartphone is definitely a huge new area that's coming up. Earlier on, we were talking about how televisions and cars and all kinds of new devices are coming up. So software for that will definitely be a new area.
One of the UK companies came with an innovative product on insurance backup on the policies. Yeah, it's like an application. You just scan and put it, but they redo the entire listing of any dispute. You have an online service, just press the button, it goes to their particular insurance company saying that I'm somewhere you're stuck or there's an accident. Those can be products on technology as well as software.
Let me tell you about a product that was successful domestically, right? A product called Sapiens. Sapiens is a huge hit domestically, and you know your product is working in any market when the sales cycle is very short. If your sales cycle is long, then the product doesn't work in that market. You should ideally be able to close within 3 weeks. If you can close within 3 weeks, then the market is hot for your product. Otherwise, the market is not hot for your product, right? So everybody said, man, India, people don't buy, but there are certain products that Indians will buy. So Sapiens is a product that monitors what you do on your computer. Right? And all these IT companies, they have T&M contracts with their clients. Right? So they have installed Sapiens to monitor how many hours the guy is working on the project, is he taking smoke breaks. You know what Wipro found? An average guy at Wipro was taking 12 smoke breaks a day. Vishal really freaked out. And he found that people are only working about 5.5 hours a day on an average in the company. So the problem was, how do you tackle privacy? People would complain, "Hey, yaar, mere computer pe dal diya and you're monitoring me." So what he did was, he installed it on his own computer, and every day he publishes on their intranet his own log. So now no one can complain. So now Wipro has taken whatever 100,000 licenses or so. Sort of install this pan Wipro. It's a great product. So Wipro has it, KPIT has it, all the guys, Tech Mahindra, they've all taken Sapiens. In fact, we've not had to raise a Series A in Sapiens because we've got so much cash on books from sales. And we've not bothered selling the product abroad. There's so much of a domestic market.
But every product will have its own welcome. Like there'll be early adopters, there'll be the big bang adopts it. So, like if you faced with a dilemma to stay in this market, let's say the Indian market, where you can attract some early adopters and be the leading player in the market, versus go to the masses where it's already being accepted. There's short sales like the 360 achieved. There's enough pie for everyone. So, how would be the volume?
Yeah, sure. If you get a domestic market, nothing like it. Why not? That's why I was just talking about Sapiens. We haven't bothered with the international market because we had a domestic market. Easier to commute to Pune, to Delhi and all and sell your product.
But it would take, since the start of the bell curve, so maybe it will take 1 or 2 years to the bell curve scale. Really scale.
Part of your product is hard.
So it's okay all year.
Yeah, so I mean, here's how I'd like to define it. There should be a lot of guys which are willing to be early adopters for this product. That is ideal. There should be a latent demand, there should be hunger for the product. Because you as an entrepreneur can't wait for that market to arrive, right? You don't have money. Very hard to wait for a market to arrive. Try to create products for ready markets. I mean, look at iPhone and all, right? People just lapped it up when it came out. You didn't have to wait. There was so much hunger for that product. They hardly advertised it, I think. In fact, that's a trend with all these technology products, right? They hardly advertise. So that's the biggest sign that your product is hot. You don't need to really push it.
As a B2B startup, what would be the approach to acquire the first few customers, especially the enterprise clients?
Free trials. Even those are hard to get because people invest their time. Free trials, then they become references. You do whatever you can, right? At Sapiens, for example, we invested in it. Then we called up all the guys that we knew personally, right? And we said, boss, my industry company tried. So you do what you can. You try to get free trials by hook or by crook. And if they like it, they buy it. Free trials is a great device.
Can you tell us a little bit about Ola?
Yeah, well, Ola is not a software product, but I'll tell you about it. So Ola is an information company. So let me explain what an information company is. An information company solves the information problem. Naukri is an information company. Employee is ready, employer is ready, the two don't know each other. There's an information problem, right? It solves that information problem. Google is an information company. Publisher is ready, he has published. The person who wants to read the content is there, the two don't know each other. Right? So it solves that problem. Shadi.com is an information company. Boy is ready, girl is ready, they don't know each other. Solves that problem. Ola is an information company. There are million plus cabs in India. There are a lot of people that want to ride cabs. They didn't know each other. So unlike Meru, which went and bought its cabs or Tap Cab, they just marry the two each other. So it's a great company, because it solves that problem. What the new age information companies do is that they add a quality layer on top in order to do that, right? So we train all the drivers, they fly, the cars are well maintained. We check every vehicle X amount of kilometers. We've technology enabled all the vehicles. They all have Android devices. You have like big screens. And if you walk into Ola, you walk into NASA. There are all these gigantic screens everywhere, showing all the cabs in all the cities. We are in 4 cities now: Bombay, Delhi, Pune, Bangalore. So it shows all the cabs in all the cities. So that's what Ola does. It has a lot of other layers on top of it, which help all the operators. So the people log onto the Ola system so that they get demand. So we have to look after demand, like PhD yield management, which are working at Ola. We sort of map out, okay, X amount of flights are landing, send cabs in that direction. Rock concert, send cabs in this direction, and so on and so forth. Value-added layer, the new generation information companies that they're not just vanilla marketplaces. They'll have a quality layer, they'll have a brand layer, so it's everything comes under the Ola brand. They'll have a yield management sort of layer. But It's an information company. They don't own the cab, they don't operate the cab. They make 15% on every cab ride.
This predictive and analytics and all that you're talking about.
Right.
There are softwares readily available again from this. You plug it in, make yourself.
In our case, we built it all because for this specific thing, we didn't have a lot of software. Ola has built almost all the software.
Now you can actually.
Well, it's proprietary. I don't know if we are more to license that at the moment. But we built our software from ground up.
In terms of getting the product ready for the international market, Indian customers, they don't have much feedback they have on things like user experience or quality and things like that. In terms of for the software product. But the international market is much more they want the product to flow in a certain way. So do you think we should think a product should ready itself or spend some time in packaging itself correctly for the
I think you should try to create a world-class product from day one because your Indian consumer is also using global products, right? I mean, today if your Onidas and your Videocons are not of international standards, people will not buy them and they're not buying them very often, right, as a result. Similarly with software, there's no such thing as a national product anymore. Everything is now you're living in a globalized era. So you might as well create to that standard and you're nowhere in the game. You have some kind of clunky UI, etc. Nobody's going to excuse it. So these are some of the hygiene factors, right? Global, you've got to have very kind of great UI. You have to, there should be no bugs in your product. You can't have any of those kind of quality issues. You have to be a world leader in your category. You set out. 2, 3 kind of hygiene issues when you become a product that you must be.
In information product, for example, when you see a bigger challenge, getting the customers on board or getting those the cab drivers on board. So you're dealing with two parties.
In our case, it was the cabbies because there's just so much latent cab demand, right? So the problem is you don't see Ola ads and all much. In fact, every time you use Ola, the irritating thing is there's never available. It's always like, at least I'm always irritated by it. Every time I try it, it's not available. So the problem with India with cabs is that there's a lot of latent demand. That's the ideal category you want to be in, right? So it's the same thing with Sapiens, right? There's so much demand because as your CEO, as your boss, you want to know what people are doing, and people are probably not being respectful of their company life. So you want to be ideal is get into a category where there's a lot of latent demand. So then you only have the supply side problem to solve. When I was learning karate in school, my teacher told me, only breathe out, your body will automatically breathe in. So you focus on that one thing. Right? And ideally, hopefully, it's you don't have to create demand. That's very expensive.
Do we have any more questions? Because I think this has been very fruitful. We have a lot to take back home unless you have any personal questions for your business, any other.
Any company in the initial stage, it's a catch-22 situation. Like, you can create a huge demand by bringing in new people and process and all that. But you don't have money to do that.
No, but that was my point. If there's massive demand out there, it'll be quite cheap to access. People are hungry for, it's like pizza delivery. People wanted delivered product at home. It would not be very expensive for Domino's to build that. That's why look at Domino's share price.
So the very first time when pizza delivery was getting started, did they just made a team to deliver?
So they were smart, right? So if you look at Domino's being a delivery joint always opens on high streets. Have you noticed that? So all those cars driving around see it. You have to be smart. They pay a little bit larger rent, but that then covers all their marketing. And they give all those free coupons, right? Okay, now they started really TV advertising and stuff. You have to be smart in what you do. You have to spend a lot of time on solving it in a smart way. Read a lot, I would advise you.
I think Apple spent all their maiden advertisement in a single socket.
Yeah. A lot of examples of people having done these smart tactics in order to build market. At Flora, what we did is, it was 2004 when I set up Flora. We SEO'd the hell out of every keyword, right? So we took like 35,000 keywords and we SEO'd them. So we had like send flowers Germany, flower delivery Germany, discount flowers Germany, everything to do with Germany, right? So you took that one word and we created multiple pages around it. So for every keyword you had one page that was created, and that got us into the, even till today, Flora ranks in the top 5 for over 30,000, 35,000 keywords. So for us, that was sort of the new kind of area that we could kind of get into. It was unsaturated, we got into it. Today you can't get those top positions because they were all taken in the early days. It's very hard to get those top positions. Same thing we did at Dhruva, right? We SEO'd the hell out of Dhruva when we kind of got into it. You know how we built Ola? We built it on spam. We spammed the hell out of SMS, spammed the hell out of everybody when we could. Just like, you know, before TARI kind of regulated it, we would send people like spam messages all the time to use Ola, and it worked. We didn't even have a cool number at that time, but it worked. I mean, we had a few cars only to get rid of. But you've got to think of innovative ways in which you can reach out.
How does Ola ensure quality service? Because the cabbies, they all move because of this experience, otherwise what's the problem?
So that was her question, right? So actually the biggest problem for us is bringing cabs onto the system. So they have to go through a long training sort of exercise. We have a huge manual and we have a very senior guy that kind of looks after training. And the training is not one time, it has to be periodic, it's continuous. Now we are installing cameras inside all our cabs in order to monitor drivers and for safety. So all these kind of things are being kind of taken. We have to train drivers on GPS, we have to train drivers on politeness, hygiene, using deodorant, keeping the vehicle clean, so on and so forth. You know, every little thing. What speeds to drive at. You know, so India has its own unique sort of challenges. Right?
How do you ensure you get your revenue?
How do you ensure? Because it's all through our app. You collect it.
The amount of money I think you're spending, I think, on trainings and all those stuff.
You take money in advance for every fare online, or it is?
We take for a lot of them. About 40% is now being taken in advance. And we give a discount if you pay online.
And the drivers are trained to accept that. They accept it anyway.
But that's our commission.
Yeah, but when it comes to cash, when they pay,
The system whereby they have to deposit the cash. But it works out, otherwise you get locked off the system.
What are the core incentives for the cab drivers in Ola that would have them shift and go through all the training and, you know, abide by the structures that you set up for them? And obviously, if they, you know, if they're independent, it's like they can do what they want, right? So what kind of incentive would you?
Demand.
The demand. So you're guaranteeing them the business, basically.
Yeah,
That's the.
You know, I mean, till we could send a lot of demand.
Right.
We didn't have the leverage
Yep.
to do this.
Yeah, before the leverage.
So it was very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually that's why we actually raised funding. So I'll tell you how we cracked the problem. When we didn't have enough demand, we decided to raise venture funding, Tiger. And what we did is we started paying cabs a fixed amount per month. We pay them 30,000 a month, fixed. Now we don't do that anymore. Now we have enough demand. So early on, that's how we kind of cracked it.
How much were you giving them monthly?
Earlier we were giving them, so we were doing an MG scheme,
Yeah.
the minimum guarantee of 30,000 a month. So now of course we've exceeded that,
Okay.
but it's no longer an MG.
An MG is now,
more
yeah.
than that. So we cracked the whole supply problem using MGs.
Right.
And we pitched to a VC saying that's what we want the money for. The VC agreed, we funded it to the company.
And how long did they give you on the MG scheme? Did they give you some kind of like?
Yeah, so we raised $4 million in MGs. That's what we raised the money.
And how long did it take you to spend that?
So So Bombay was the first market.
Yeah.
I think we started Bombay. I think it takes about a year or so it took us to reach that level where we were selling them enough demand that we could take them off. We said now no more MGs.
That's when the leverage came in for a year and all.
No, but once we had the MGs, we had leverage.
Yeah.
We said if I'm paying you 30,000 a month, you better follow my
Okay.
procedure.
But that MG scheme turned out profitable or
It took time. Yeah. So that's why you raise funding, right? Because you know you're going to bleed.
Good understanding demand which are worldwide.
Can't hear you.
Good understanding the demand. Companies might have different demands, but now they can't develop a separate product for themselves. So, would you could recommend us some way out to understand the demand of corporate also, maybe worldwide or in domestic market?
So I'll tell you what I do is I do a lot of talking to people. We talk to all these guys a lot. I know you can do the usual stuff, you can read reports and all that, but I personally like to talk to my customers, my potential customers. So now that I'm in the venture business, right, and we fund companies, we are constantly talking to the acquirers as to what kind of companies do they want to buy. So that's how we have a thesis on who to fund. Then not only do you know what companies they want to buy, what price are they likely to buy it at, what size are they likely to buy it at. So I'm constantly talking to my acquirers. I'm constantly in touch with the M&A teams of Microsoft, BMC Software, Salesforce, and so on and so forth. We know what they're looking for, what they perceive as gaps in the portfolio, what areas they find hard, how much are they willing to pay for those companies, what size do they want the company to be at. So these guys don't want very small companies, they want it to be very mature before they buy it. We know that.
Is there an industry what which we can follow?
So that's why we talk.
Following your blog.
It's tough, man. No, these things are not easy, right? But it's not tough to talk. See, if you're in the business, you've got to do whatever it takes.
I was thinking on lines of creating product, if you're trying to create a product, you have an X amount of money. You'd rather make certain thing interesting, which somebody is willing to buy.
That's the whole idea.
Yes, yes.
That's what I just said. But how do you know what is interesting, right? If you don't talk. So you develop a thesis by talking to the potential buyers. And you build to sell because you know they can't innovate, right? They have an innovation challenge. So you have a great market for what you build.